Hello everyone, my name is Mike. I'm a communications manager with ONLYOFFICE, and I'm glad to see everyone today on our channel. So let's start the webinar. So today I will talk you through new plugins recently released by ONLYOFFICE, which are Zoom, ChatGPT, and also a new version of the Zotero plugin. Zoom and ChatGPT integrations were highly anticipated additions in ONLYOFFICE, and many people are already using them. But just in case you want to catch up, I'm going to walk you through the functionality and how to use those plugins. And as for the Zotero plugins, new version brings you a lot of useful features for automated bibliography creation. And also, we updated a plugin manager, make it a bit more intuitive in terms of navigation and search. So let's begin. First, a little bit about plugins in ONLYOFFICE. We have quite a collection of such apps in ONLYOFFICE docs, and they allow you to extend your functionality by adding different kinds of features and services. For example, insert YouTube videos, convert text, generate text and code, create bibliographies, draw, and do so much more. You can write your own plugins using our API and even add them to our marketplace. This is also the place where you install and manage all your plugins together, and it's available via Plugin Manager in your Plugins tab. Plugins in ONLYOFFICE are available in all solutions: ONLYOFFICE Docs, ONLYOFFICE Workspace, Docs for Developers, ONLYOFFICE Personal, and also desktop editors. So now let's talk about the new apps. First, the Zoom plugin is finally in. And it lets you to participate in meetings right in the editors without switching the windows. Moreover, you can even start your new meetings and you can schedule them. To use the plugin, however, you will need to retrieve the Zoom API keys, which you can obtain from your Zoom account via Zoom app Marketplace. And we will drop a guide link in the chat to help you understand how to do this. So now let's get to demonstrating how it all works. So here is a test document in front of me, and I'm already here in the Zoom plugin, and it looks pretty straightforward. So here you have a topic of your new Zoom call, which is going to be the same as the document name by default. And here you can start meeting or you can schedule a meeting. If you go a bit lower down, there is a special menu for joining meetings. So when you click Start Meeting, okay, give it a second. Yeah, now the new meeting has been created, and you will see the credentials for as an invitation to the meeting dropped inside the built-in chat in ONLYOFFICE docs. So from here you can, for example, copy the link and you can enter it anywhere, share it with someone you want to invite. Okay. So going a bit back, if you want to schedule a meeting, it gives you a bit more options. For example, you can set up the date of the meeting, time, duration, and configure different kinds of parameters such as time zone, recurring meeting, and enter optional password if you want to. And whenever you create a new meeting, it will also send you all the information about the invitation in the chat. For example, let's, oh, that's wrong. Anyway, let's set it for 8 hours, and it will be at 8 p.m. today. When you click Save, the new meeting is going to be scheduled, and you will have it in the chat right here. So what about joining meetings? I know I received a meeting invitation from my colleague, Elena. You could already see her in the collaboration menu. And so I'm going to go to the plugin to join a meeting. In this case, you will have to enter your optional name, enter meeting ID and password if there is such, and choose your role and some other parameters if required. Once you drop a meeting link in the meeting ID field, it will automatically give you the meeting ID itself and also the password to the meeting. And at this point, you just click join. Okay, allow camera. Okay, so here I am at my setting up screen where I can operate my mic and video. Now it's on. And okay. Hi. Hey, how are you doing? Yeah, a little bit of network interruptions. Oh, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Hi, hi, hi. Yeah, I hope you're having a nice day. I'm in the middle of webinar now, by the way. So.
Trying to.
Okay, okay. So I will call you later. And it's been nice
sure.
seeing your face. Okay, have a nice working day. Okay, and here you just casually disconnect. Inside the meeting, you can basically change all the basic parameters. You can also configure your audio, your video. You can use reactions, and you can do all other different things that you used to do, except for screen sharing. So, okay, let's move on to our next plugin. And the next app I'm going to talk about is ChatGPT. So this service has been increasingly viral for the past month, and many of you probably already know about it, but I will introduce it anyway. So ChatGPT is an AI-based chatbot developed by OpenAI. And it has been trained using massive amounts of data from the internet and also assisted by human training. So it turned out to be pretty smart and may give you really impressive results. And it can perform a multitude of tasks. For example, it can generate text, it can generate code, it can even create HTML objects such as images and tables. And it can also translate text, it can finish your sentences, and it can also converse with you like a real human. So there are like a lot of things and still more to discover. And so still many researchers and enthusiasts, they claim that the responses are not usually accurate. And so ChatGPT doesn't deserve the praise that I guess that many people think. And that said, you shouldn't, I guess, fully rely on it when writing your thesis. However, you can still find it very useful for a lot of tasks you perform for a lot of occupations and your professional fields. So let's see for ourselves. So now we're here in the same document. Once you open ChatGPT, so I'm already logged in. Just like with Zoom, you will need your API credentials, and OpenAI API is a paid feature, and the payment is based on tokens. I will explain now what those tokens mean. Again, if you need help on setting up those tokens, there's a pretty a lot of content over the internet about how to retrieve them. It's not difficult, and we will also drop some useful links in the chat for you. So once you open the chat, you will see basically a big field, which is your field where you enter your prompts, and you need just to do as little as click submit once you already entered your prompt and you want to get an answer from the chat. So let's ask it something. For example, what's the weather like in Melbourne? And once you click submit, in a few moments you will get a response right inside your document, inserted where your cursor is. So it gave us some brief information about the weather in Melbourne, And this is like kind of vague and very broad and also very short. And because this is how ChatGPT works, like whenever your request is not specific enough, it will just give you the answer that it thinks you need based on like a probability, and it also give you more general answers for more general questions. So here it gave us some temperature fluctuations in different seasons, and also something about rainfalls and which month are the wettest. So we can be more specific and ask like what was the weather like yesterday, for example. Okay, so now we have a bit more precise answer about specifically the weather that was sunny and how many degrees there was in Melbourne yesterday. And we can even make it more complex, and as I already mentioned, you can ask it to generate HTML objects. So let's ask it to generate a little table with weather data in Melbourne, for example. So we're going to write generate HTML code for a table with the weather data in Melbourne. All right, so now you see a nice little table. It tells you different days of the week and what the temperature was, and was it cloudy or sunny. Yeah, so again, this was like a pretty general request. We didn't specify like what do we mean by weather and other things. And we can even ask it to edit the table and maybe I don't know, add some colors to it. So for example, we can ask to highlight the columns with colors. Okay. Okay, now you can see it's more like Excel style with the headers a bit more prominent. So the results may actually vary because I tried this request like a few times before, and sometimes it may give you different interpretations of your request. For example, it can paint the columns like different colors, or you can highlight the headings with different colors, or like same color as here. So it also may be quite different. And there are like other parameters here which you can use to slightly fine-tune what the answers look like. And I'm gonna show you now what they are. So let's go to the advanced settings. They are like right below the prompt field, and here you can see model. This is where you choose the generation model that you're going to use for generating the outputs. They might be slightly different in terms of performance and in terms of how they use the tokens. But it's totally up to you. The one that is default here is DaVinci 3. There is also maximum length. Maximum length is the maximum length of the response, and it defines how many tokens the response is going to contain. So the token is not exactly a word or a character, but it's rather a batch of characters, which is around 3 to 4 characters. It is hard to define like how many characters it is precisely, but it's around 3 to 4. For example, in the word hamburger, there will be 3 tokens, hamburger and ger. And So in this case, what also is important is to know how long your prompt is, because the maximum length also includes your own prompt. For example, if you if you set up the maximum length to 2000 tokens, and your prompt is 200 tokens, that the maximum length of the response will be 1800 tokens. And you can see exactly how many tokens are used in your prompt by looking just below the prompt field. So it gives you the exact estimate of how many tokens you use. So for example, I wrote the hello world, and it's I wrote hello 3 times, and it's 3 tokens. Let's move on to the next parameters. So the next 2 parameters are temperature and top P. Those 2 are used to define the creativity of the chat. As for example, how much different the response is going to be from what would be the most likely response, as to say. And those work for the same purpose, roughly, but they are a bit different. So temperature defines how creative it's going to be about certain words and like phrases and building the sentence. Like if you increase the temperature, it's going to allow itself to be a bit more and more creative depending on the how much the temperature is. So the maximum here is 1 and the minimum is 0. So the more temperature, the more creative it's gonna go. And we don't recommend setting it at the maximum when you want like adequate answers, but it will be understandable, but it just it might give you some unexpected results, so to say. The next one is top P, which is also defining the creativity of the chat, but here it will pick words from different kind of selections. For example, when the top P is 1, it's gonna pick the most probable words to be used to express whatever the task is. And if the top P is 0, then it's going to use the last probable words. So we don't really recommend using these parameters together because the results might be unexpected. I mean, it's not going to break anything. It's just that if they are all on a maximum reliability, then you will have some gibberish instead of the answer. So unless this is what you want to get, we don't recommend using all of them, or at least try it before you are sure how you want to change your prompts. So I don't know, let's test it on a simple example. It can write text for you, and it can even write you some fictional text. So for example, we can ask it to write a fairy tale about, okay, let's write it about the same weather in Melbourne. Okay, so we increased the maximum length a little bit to give it some space, and let's just stick to normal default temperature and top P, which is going to give you a very straightforward result. Okay, so now we have a little fairy tale, and basically you can see, so this is about a beautiful city in Melbourne and some girl named Daisy, and she was curious and loved to explore the city and its many wonders, and she went on to get into some kind of adventure. So we can give it the same exact prompt, but this time we can increase the temperature, which will allow it to pick very different phrases and combinations. Okay, so you already see that the beginning of the sentence is very different from what we had before, and so this parameter can help you get a lot of different versions of the text, and that will be very variable, and you can fine-tune and control the style of the response of the chat. All right, and one last parameter that we can see here is stop sequences. So a stop sequences parameter lets you define when the chat should stop generating the text, and this is when it stumbles upon a certain word combination or any kind of phrase or a word or whatever. So this is like a stop word for it. For example, when you want to avoid it going into any kind of unwanted topic, and you can just write something like, I don't know, carrot cake. So whenever it's generated in text, and the next phrase in it is going to be a carrot cake. So the next phrase in the queue is going to stop. This stop phrase is also not going to be used in the generated text. Yeah, one more very useful thing about ChatGPT is that it can actually translate anything you want into any language that you need. So let's take this little sentence from our fairy tale and translate it to Italian, for example. All right, so here you have a translation, and you can pick other languages. I don't know, let's translate it to Dutch. See, so you can get your texts quickly translated in here, and so you can basically use it as a translation plugin as well. Okay, so I believe I've shown you everything about this functionality. The number of tasks that you can give to it are virtually limitless. So you can generate objects when you, for example, ask it to generate an HTML code, and in a document it will give you an object. This is not that you can create any number of objects. For example, I've tried it with AutoShapes. There was no luck, but like it can give you images, it can give you tables, it can give you formatted tables, and it can also translate your text. It can simply converse with you, ask any of your questions, give you detailed answers, very structured, and so yeah, this tool actually deserves its popularity. Anyway, if you have any more questions about like how to use it, you can shoot your questions in the chat or just reach out via Twitter. So we will be happy to tell you more about each of those plugins. And for now, I'm going to move on to the next plugin for today, which is Zotero. We've had this plugin for a while, and recently we released a new version of this plugin, and we added some nice improvements to it that will specifically help you automate your bibliography creation tasks. So what it could do before is to generate your bibliography based on pre-existing sources that you had in your Zotero library, and just insert them whenever you need it in your papers and other works that you have in your documents. So this time we added such thing as fields. So with fields, it can insert citations and bibliography in a bit different format, which allows us to do a lot of new things. For example, you can automatically change the style and format of your citations in a text altogether whenever you apply a new settings, for example, a new citation style. You can also synchronize your citations with your Zotero library, meaning that if you changed any kind of information about one of or many of the sources in your Zotero library, you can refresh the citations in a document and it will change this information about the sources if it's mentioned in your document currently. You can also convert previously existing links to citations, and whenever you're finalizing your paper, you can convert those fields to plain text at any point of time, just to reach maximum compatibility with any other software where you or others are going to open the document. I'm going to show you how the plugin works and, of course, some of these new features. So let's go to the same document we have here. Okay. I'm just going to clean up whatever I generated with chat before. Okay, so here's the Zotero plugin. Now we have some sample text on a screen. I took it from Wikipedia. It's about freshwater fish article. Anyway, this is how the plugin interface looks. You see some new fields appeared here. So you can insert the citations, you can insert the bibliography, you can cancel selection, you can also refresh all of your citations, and you can sync it with your Zotero library. So let's find some place in the text where we want to insert the citations. For example, I have an item in my library with the article about eels. So, for example, here's where I want to place it. And what you need to do is just type in what you are looking for, and it will give you all the citations from your Zotero library which match your search. For example, this one, and I will insert it into the text. And let's maybe add one more source here. Okay, so now we have two citations. And let's also insert the bibliography that we can build based on these two sources. So what you need to do is just click insert, and it will give you the bibliography at wherever you want to place it. So as you can see, those are not just plain text, those are actually fields. But in this case, you can change them and change the style, and it will be applied to your whole document. For example, here you can select the citation style, and we can choose, for example, the Harvard style, cite them right 10th edition. Okay, so as you can see, all the citations have been changed. Now, instead of numbers, we actually have some brief information about citations, which is according to this particular style that we just chose, and the format of the bibliography also changed. As I mentioned before, you can sync the items with the updated information in your library. So here I have my Zotero library with some, I don't know, these are like any kind of random text test sources. So for example, let's edit this one because we inserted it in the text, and write a word, I don't know, new for example. So now it is saved. It has the new title now. Let's see how it's going to affect the citations in a document. You just need to click synchronize, and that's it. So now, as you can see, the setting has been successfully applied in your bibliography. And once you are done and you want to convert the fields to the plain text, you just go to Reconfigure menu and click Save as Text. So you will exit the plugin this way, and all of your citations will be saved as plain text. Okay. So, where can you use all of those new plugins? The plugins are available in OnlyOffice Docs for integration, in OnlyOffice Workspace, in Docs for developers, OnlyOffice Personal, and also in OnlyOffice desktop editors. To install them in any of the online editions of the editors, you just need to go to Plugins tab and find the plugin manager where you can browse all the plugins and install or uninstall them. ChatGPT and Zotero are available in OnlyOffice desktop editors as well, and in this case you will need to get the plugin file on GitHub and install it manually, and we will drop a link with the easy instructions in the YouTube chat for you to see. About the plugin marketplace. Plugin marketplace is available in Docs via the plugins tab. This is where you can browse and manage all your plugins and install new ones easily in any web solution. It received a few useful updates that help you navigate and search the plugins. So now you can search them by name, and you can also select different categories of the plugins. This is all I have for you today, and thank you very much for staying with me, and feel free to ask us any questions in the chat. We're going to answer them, and enjoy your work in OnlyOffice Docs. So have a nice day. Goodbye.